This isn't France, it's not the Middle East, it's New York. Everything went wrong in New York. Guys, in fact, here they tell us this isn't the Middle East, it's the Ramadan prayer in New York. Tolerance in the United States will end when we become the United Kingdom. Of course, it seems like the United States is heading in that direction. Let's see.
No reward for good, but for the good.
This is New York, guys. This is Times Square. Look, just look.
Thank you.
It can't be possible, really. And all of this is happening 25 years after what happened with the Twin Towers.
The Word of God is the Word of God.
It pains me to say it, but this is just the beginning. It's that simple and straightforward. This is the beginning. This is going to get worse. I guarantee it. In fact, here they tell us this no longer looks like America, but a nation of you-know-what, right in the heart of the West. This is not Badak, this is not Kabul, this is New York, United States of America. They see the streets filled with mass prayer, foreign flags, and a presence that screams conquest. I mean, many Americans are quite outraged and rightfully so by this. Let's take a look, please, at this video. Just look at this, look at this. Incredible. Check out this guy walking through the crowd. His face. What the heck just happened here? And look, I have to be honest with you. When I was a kid and I still hadn't had the chance to travel around the world, New York was my favorite city. I always dreamed of going to New York and I would say, someday I'll be in the city that never sleeps. For me, New York was like in My Poor Little Angel, you know, like in Home Alone, it was like that. A wonderful city, epic and iconic city. And I'm not going to deny that New York still has those beautiful buildings, the skyscrapers, all of that. It's there, Central Park, all of that is still there. However, the vibes are very different. Honestly, it's a decaying city. It hurts me to say it, but that's the harsh reality. New York is decaying. And actually, for me, during the 20th century, New York was the best city in the world. Maybe along with Tokyo, both were the best cities on planet Earth. And nowadays, I think New York has fallen far, far behind. Meanwhile, Tokyo, despite Japan's economic stagnation, I think its infrastructure has been very well maintained. In fact, I think Tokyo is still one of the top 3 cities in the world, without a doubt. On the other hand, New York is no longer on that list. It's no longer on the podium. For me, New York has fallen far, far behind. In fact, 2 other cities that were among the most important in the 20th century were Paris and London. And where are those cities now? Well, unfortunately, they've also fallen far, far behind, very much left behind. They've lost out to other cities that have gained a lot of importance in recent years, like, for example, the Chinese cities, guys, Shanghai. Wow, what a thing, what madness. And it's not the only one. There are at least about 10 cities in China that totally outshine Paris and London, which people can't even imagine. It's incredible. And watch out, they're not the only ones either. What is it? There are also cities like Bangkok, Thailand, which is spectacular, Da Nang in Vietnam, which is known as the Miami of Asia, Ho Chi Minh, Saigon, also in Vietnam, which is currently probably the fastest growing city in the world, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, which is something crazy, with impressive skyscrapers, and listen, a very curious thing about Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Well, Malaysia is a Muslim country, you knew that, but it's a country that is pretty well preserved. It's a country that is progressing a lot, filled with skyscrapers, where people are very respectful and very friendly. The problem is that, despite all that, having lived in Malaysia, I can tell you that their culture is incompatible with Western culture. Even though I consider it one of those Muslim countries that are actually worth it, I think their culture is incompatible with Western culture. It's that simple and straightforward. Just imagine what I'm telling you now. I want you to think about what's happening in countries like France, the United Kingdom, or even in cities like New York. It's much worse. Because basically, what these people do is try to impose their religion and their way of thinking on a culture that is completely different, like the Western one. And I find that extremely serious. In fact, I want us, please, to watch more videos of what happened.
Thank you.
Allahu Akbar.
It's just surreal.
It's just.
Of course, 10 or 15 years ago, you couldn't imagine this. It was unthinkable, really. And even 10 years ago, all this immigration was already starting to be seen. We were already starting to see what was happening in Europe. For example, the first consequences were already starting to appear. And yet it still seemed pretty unthinkable to me to see something like this in a city like New York. But it has happened. It's already here. This is Mamdani's New York. And honestly, I wasn't surprised. It's a city in total decline. In fact, there's something very curious. It turns out this garbage issue continues. That's right. Even though I released the first video talking about this topic almost a month ago. It turns out they haven't solved the problem and this is still a dump. Look at the piles of garbage in New York. In fact, here someone comments, it's incredible how quickly New York is going downhill under Mamdani's leadership. Look, the problem is that New York had already been in free fall for quite a few years, piled up garbage, streets in bad condition, the atmosphere has changed quickly. At that moment, New York doesn't need a mayor, it needs a hazmat team. Let's look at this. Let's see. Please, just look at this. This is the financial district of New York. This is how you walk around there. New York, incredible, guys. Maximum decay. Meanwhile, this is how they celebrated Lunar New Year in China. Look at this, look at this, look at this, look, it's completely crazy, don't you think? Look at this. The differences, I think, are brutal, they're huge, and that's the harsh reality. And listen, you would be surprised if you knew the per capita gross domestic product of many of these Asian cities. Let me give you an idea. This city you're seeing on screen has a per capita gross domestic product similar to that of Cancun, Mexico. Yes, like Cancun, Mexico. And look, the huge difference is that I think it just completely outclasses it, plain and simple. And this is where I ask myself, what do Western politicians do with all the money they get from taxes? What do they do with it? Well, I think we should all ask ourselves that question. Although deep down, deep inside, we all know the answer. But yeah, guys, it makes me really sad. Everything that's happening in New York, a city that should be very different, very vibrant, but nowadays it's in total decline. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. See you next time.